I cannot believe we are finally doing an episode. We are here at this moment in time where I am sharing with you guys some prep that I am doing as I step into motherhood and my maternity leave and all of that kind of stuff. I'll give you the details on like the logistics of my maternity leave so that you know that in the next episode. But today, and sorry if you can hear me breathing as we go, but we're at that point of pregnancy where my lungs are at like literally 10% capacity. But I wanted to give you guys, because I know how many of you will be curious, I wanted to give you guys the update on kind of what I have done to prepare myself as I go into this new chapter and new season of life. So let's dive in. The first thing that I want to say is that I do really feel like pregnancy in and of itself is so much of the energetic preparation for if you like really are in touch with your body, if you kind of can really surrender and dive into the 9-month journey, because it honestly is a journey. I feel like that there is so much goodness that you can get out of this 9-month journey that by the time you kind of get to the moment, well, at least in my experience, how I've kind of used pregnancy, by the time I get to this moment of stepping into motherhood, it's like I haven't just been preparing these 9 months. I've also been preparing before this 9-month period as well. And I talk about that in the conception episode of kind of what we did. I talk about the energetic preparation, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to know about the stuff that we did that I did before we conceived, you can go to that episode. But in terms of the last 9 months, I have really been using pregnancy as like the beginning of this portal. I've been using it as preparation for what's to come. So as an example, in trimester 1, for example, and then also again in trimester 3, definitely, on those days where I'm just like really tired or I'm not as productive or, I need an extra hour of sleep in the morning. So I'm going to get a bit of a later start into my day. I'm not then beating myself up. I'm not thinking, oh my God, like I'm running late. I'm not in my right routine or anything like that. I'm not even just surrendering to it, but I'm using those moments as opportunities to practice what I will have to practice so much when I am not in charge of my own schedule and a little baby is. So it's all of those little moments throughout pregnancy when I'm not feeling good. How can I surrender to it versus getting frustrated with it? When I am having an emotional day, how can I pivot my day when it comes to work or, any other things during my day versus me having this expectation of myself that I should be able to get through the day like I did pre-pregnancy, because I'm not going to be able to also when I step into motherhood, at least for the beginning. And at least I'm not setting an expectation for myself. Obviously, we are manifesting that everything is so smooth sailing and it's so easy and the transition is beautiful and all that kind of stuff. But, and I'll obviously update you guys when I come back from maternity leave, but we don't know what's going to happen, right? I could do all of this energetic prep and it could still be an absolute fucking shit show, right? But I like to think that this energetic preparation that I'm doing and also like the mental and physical and all of that is going to make things easier once I am in that new season of life that Hal and I will be very much enjoying. So I've really been using pregnancy as the portal versus just the beginning of postpartum. I think for a lot of people, and I'll talk about this in a second with nervous system, but for a lot of people, they have this like huge jolt. Obviously, there's a huge jolt hormonally and for all the other reasons, but there's also this huge energetic jolt between who you were before you became a mother and then going into motherhood. And you're also obviously navigating the hormones and all that kind of stuff. And what I've really tried to do with my nervous system work, which I'll get into in a second, is basically like be in that energy now so that there is less of this jump and jolt in my body and my nervous system and my energy field and all of that once I go into that motherhood phase. So let me give you guys a few tangible things that I've also done to really set myself up and to prepare my mind, body, soul, all of it, business, the whole thing for motherhood. Getting a support system. I've talked about this in the Q&A episode that we did. Really, really big one. I'm really big. Obviously for some people, you can't necessarily, maybe you don't have the funds to hire like a lactation consultant and a doula and this and that and the other. And I also want to say that, as Tony Robbins says, it's not about a lack of resources, it's about a lack of resourcefulness. And I've talked about this in a few episodes that we've just had recently where, even paying for all of these things, I'm like, this is a lot of money. Like, this is a stretch in terms of, like, for my ego, this is a stretch in paying for like this much support for a very short period of time. And at the same time, I'm also like, why would I not? My mindset very much is, why wait until you hit rock bottom to get support? Seriously, so many of us, especially as women, so many of us do that. We wait until, I mean, men do it too, but in different ways, but we wait until we're drowning. And a lot of women do this postpartum. They wait until they're drowning to then hire the lactation consultant, to then hire, the night doula, to then hire XYZ support. But what would it look like if you hired that before you hit that, so that you never hit that? And that's really the mindset that we're in. I don't want to try things out for myself first. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in like seeing how breastfeeding goes. And then if I'm, like about to just fucking flip because my nipple's about to crack in half, oh, then I'll hire the lactation consultant. No, I've already had a prenatal lactation consultation with my lactation consultant, and I learned so much. We paid out of pocket, and no, it's not the cheapest thing in the world. But you know what? And part of me, of course, my ego was like, do I really need this? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if I learned one thing that could make things easier for me mentally, emotionally, energetically, physically, after our baby boy is here, it is worth that money that we have spent. Right? So she gave me, I just honestly, I can't even like get into it, but I was mind blown of just like all these little tips and tricks that she told me, even just little things like, this is the pump that you should get. So I'm not spending fucking hours doing the research. This is the pump that you should get. Here's the size that you should get, because she like measured me up. Here's the size that you should get. Here are the bottles that you should get. Here, like all these little things. Like for example, I'll give you an example. I had always just thought, okay, we'll just breastfeed for, as long as we can, basically until I go back to work. And then we'll have to do like a mix between breast and bottle, because I want to be able to be on client calls and not like be worried about what if he needs me for a feed, but knowing that like Hal can obviously step in and do that. But then part of me had always thought, because again, I don't fucking know, part of me had always thought then, oh, but if we introduce the bottle too early, then what if he won't like my boob anymore? Like that happens for some women. I explained this to her and she was like, oh, no. It's not about the bottle. It's about how fast the milk comes out of the bottle. So basically it's about the bottle that you choose and like the nipple of the bottle, if that makes sense. And I could be butchering this slightly, by the way. She obviously said it a lot more coherently. It's about the nipple of the bottle, and you want like a slow, whatever it's called, nipple, because that's going to then mimic the closest thing to your breast for breastfeeding, because the baby just wants the fastest source of food. And so if the bottle becomes the fastest source of food, then the baby's going to want the bottle. But if your boob and bottle are like one and the same, it's not necessarily going to change anything. Or even better, if your boob gets him more milk than the bottle, or like the speed of it or whatever, he's going to continue to want your boob. And obviously things could obviously like change once we're in it. But even just that, I was like, do you know how much that just released this kind of like, it wasn't even pressure, because I wrapped my head around it. And Hal and I have had many, many, many conversations about like the postpartum and kind of our plans and sleep deprivation and all of those different things. And like, feeding. And we'll talk about that down the track once we've obviously like, I've talked about it a little bit in the Q&A of what we've planned, but obviously plans can change. But we'll talk about what we've kind of done, obviously, once we're back. But that just blew my mind, because it made me realize, oh my God, when our night doula is over and we're paying her a lot of money whilst we're sleeping to look after our baby, and we're co-sleeping, it's like, like in the bassinet next to us, like not a bassinet, he's in the co-sleeper thing, whatever. Oh my gosh, I don't even necessarily, if I don't want to, need to wake up for those nights that she's here, because she could just feed him. Now I might have to pump. Like, again, we don't know the intricate details, but just having that support before I even needed it, oh my God, like changed the game. And so think about that, not just in terms of support with birth and like, a new season of life in regards to becoming a mother, but think about that in regards to if you're wanting to quantum leap into any new season of life, if you're wanting to grow, your business or grow your income or your love life or your relationship or anything like that. Why do we wait until we're struggling to get help? Don't. Hire the expert before you even need the expert. Completely different energy. So we've really been big on getting a support system around us for that postpartum period. I've got my doulas, I've got my midwives, and obviously not obviously, but the midwives come to the house after we've given birth, also to check up on me and baby and all that kind of stuff. We then have a postpartum doula. Our doulas do a little bit after the birth as well to help us. And then we have our night nurse. And then, as needed, we've got the other help on call, like ready to kind of go if we need anything. Oh, and my lactation consultant, obviously. I might not even need the lactation consultant. Everything could be good. But again, I've actually already booked in the next appointment because I'm like, I could think everything is good, but she could give me a little tip that could make things even better. I don't want just good in any area of life. I want the best. So I'm going to hire somebody that has looked at 3 million boobs and babies and knows the tiny little things that could make massive, massive shifts. Because often we think, sometimes we can think in every area of life, oh, this little thing won't make that much of a big deal. But it really can make a huge deal because of that flow-on effect of things and the domino effect. So hiring support. Also, we've done this in the business. As many of you know, Hal and I work together. So there's 2 of us that obviously have to be factored in of like, how is that going to affect business? I've shared this in a Q&A on my Instagram. I want to be the quote unquote primary caretaker. We've talked about that a lot. I don't have any interest in me being the one that's kind of, and obviously things aren't always going to be like perfect by any means. Some days can look different, but in terms of what we've planned for and what the intention is like, I am the one working less and being a mother more and looking after baby more. And he will be the one that is working more and looking after baby a little bit less. But in the beginning, I've got my maternity leave. He has his paternity leave as well. And so we've also hired more team members to help with that team support too. So we just have more hands, on deck. We've got more feet on the ground to be able to help, not just now, but also to be able to help when I come back, to be able to help with the immersion, for example, in November. Because, if I need to be breastfeeding or something during lunchtime, we don't know that I'm not there to be, helping clean the yoga mats. And so we want somebody else to be able to do that. Or even just because I will be a mother, I don't need to be arriving at the venue an hour and a half in advance to help with setup. Somebody else is going to help with setup. And I'm going to arrive, 15 minutes before we actually start so I can then have more time at home with baby. So it's these little things that we've thought about. And again, we don't actually know what is going to happen. However, the more support we have, the more that it means that we can be less reactive and more responsive, because there's always more work to be doing in the business. There is absolutely no shortage of work. So let's hire more help than have less and feel like we are all running on a hamster wheel. Okay. So that's a really big thing. Other thing that I've written down that I want to mention to you of how I've prepared my mind, body, and soul, and this is kind of in relation to business, pregnancy, and people have said this about motherhood as well. Pregnancy makes you so discerning and like so laser focused on what is a yes, what is a no, what is in alignment, what is not in alignment, like what people are serving me, what people are not serving me, like where do I actually want to take the business, where do I actually want to go, what is my next step, etc. And on that note too, my intuition has never been so loud. Like many of you know, I have a very, very, very strong intuition. I shut it down when I was younger, but I brought it back online. And a number of years ago, maybe now, 7 years ago, something like that. And my intuition is really strong, but it has never, ever, I've never felt it as strong as it is in pregnancy. Like I was speaking to a friend the other day, and I was like, the best way that I can describe it is that pre-pregnancy, I would like hear my intuition, or I would have, like a clairvoyant, thought or something like that. Or I would hear something, but my ego it wouldn't talk me out of it because I know what my ego sounds like. My ego would still be there basically. Like there would be a moment for my ego to come in and give its thoughts. Now being in pregnancy, when I have an intuitive thought, like it is like the strongest thing that I couldn't even not do it if I wanted to. Like my ego cannot even talk me out of it. Basically, fear cannot actually talk me out of it. It is so strong that I don't even feel like the hesitation anymore to do what my intuition has said. Whereas usually I would kind of like feel that little bit of hesitation. So I would then need to deal with that and then go and do the thing anyway. So my intuition has been extremely strong. And so that served me with business preparation and where we're taking the business and how things are changing. And even just like having conversations with people, it's like not in a rude way, but if someone gives an idea pre-pregnant me, I would be like, okay, yeah, like let me like think on that, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm like, nope, like, or yep, love it, next. Like that is how strong my intuition is, that I don't even need to mull over something for like 10 minutes. It is full, like all consuming through my body. So that's been really, it's been hard, I think, in some capacities, but it's also been really beautiful because it just takes a lot of decision making out of things. Like this is what's happening. We're doing it this way. We're not doing it this way, or like keep this, cut this, like that kind of stuff. So that's been really nice in the preparation that I'm doing right now for my maternity leave as well. And just for how things are changing and evolving and for what the team is doing on maternity leave and all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't seen, I have released a program called Empoweredly Submissive. And this is a fantabulous, yes, fantabulous, beginners kind of program into all of this work. So whether it is that you're wanting to dip your toes into the world of nervous system regulation and feminine energy and, you know, stepping into your boundaries and self-confidence and self-trust, there is something in this program for you. It is an elevated, luxurious, beautiful program. The energy the energy in it is obviously immaculate, but more importantly, what I actually deliver to you guys and some of the tools and the strategies and the modalities that I share with you are amazing. Now, I'm going to be transparent. It's a $149 program. It's fucking amazing. You get great value. Is it going to heal all of your trauma? Absolutely not. Would it be ethical for me to give you a pre-recorded program that is a beginner's program that sends you deep into healing your trauma cycles? No, that would not be ethical. So if you want to do really deep somatic work, that is where Queen Alchemy or my immersion is absolutely the best place for you. And it is a safe place for you where you are going to be held and led properly. But that's not to say that Empoweredly Submissive isn't a great stepping stone. For many of you, you have found Empoweredly Submissive to be a really good starting point, and to also just dip your toes into what it's like doing a program of mine, to kind of get a little bit of an idea of what happens once you join a program. So if you haven't joined Empoweredly Submissive and you feel like that could be a great starting place for you, all the modules, the outline, what you'll get out of it, who it's for, etc., is on the website page, and you can just click the link below in the podcast episode. All right, let's get back into the show. So the other thing that I've done that I was alluding to before with the nervous system work. And so basically when there has been a moment where, you know, the dogs are barking or there's a lot going on during the day, or I don't get to get something done that I wanted to, instead of letting my nervous system get stressed out, I'm using, and my clients know this practice, I'm using my nervous system expansion to basically train my nervous system to feel safe in the face of that stress or of that overwhelm or of whatever it is that I'm feeling, like of my impatience or whatnot, because I'm practicing that now over and over and over again when life is happening, or when there's a lot of stimulus or there's a lot of noise, or I've got no fucking sleep because I'm uncomfortable. Like I have to pee 300 times during the night. Instead of going into that human kind of default of victim, of frustration, of negativity, I'm using the nervous system expansion and all of my mindset tools to really be laser focused on staying in a higher vibrational energy. And I know that's going to be so, so, so important. And I know it's going to be another level of difficulty, obviously, but I'm not trying to like sweep that under the rug. I know it's completely different, like the dog's barking compared to like a baby crying for 3 hours. And like my own baby crying for 3 hours. But what I'm also saying is, like, in those moments where I can use something as practice, I am. There is so many opportunities for us to practice being in the energy of who we are about to be or who we want to be before the actual fact, but we're not seeing them. We're not using those opportunities, right? If you want to, you know, let's say a move that you're really wanting to make is to find your dream man. Okay. You really want to find your dream man. And when a man comes up to you on the street and asks you out, are you allowing yourself to actually enjoy that moment, to hold that moment, to be graceful in that moment, to embody your feminine energy in that moment, to decline him in a nice way if you don't want to go out with him? Are you declining him in a nice way in that moment? Or are you defaulting into emasculation, or there are no good men, or like, ew, is this all that I'm able to get because you're judging him based on whatever? notice those patterns and notice those little opportunities where we can step into expansion. And what we're actually doing is we're training our nervous system to embody something before we actually are in that situation. So I'm training my nervous system to not be dysregulated by noise, so that when I have a crying baby for 3 hours, I am less dysregulated. I'm sure there'll be moments of dysregulation, but we're human, but I'm going to be less dysregulated because I have practiced and practiced and practiced. It's kind of like I need to do a lot more of this. So I'm saying this out loud, so I really fucking do this. I need to practice more of the birth pain, like quote unquote pain management tools. I actually do not believe, and obviously it could be different when I'm going into it, but I've got a very positive mindset of birth, and everyone else has a positive mindset of birth. When I've read their work or done a program, it's like, it's not pain, it's sensation. And we won't go down that rabbit hole right now. And everyone's entitled to obviously their own opinion. So you don't need to DM me about this. But I need to be practicing the ice thing where I'm like holding the ice for what a contraction would be and continuously regulating my nervous system. Because what you're doing is you're making something muscle memory, right? So it becomes muscle memory that when the dogs bark, you don't go into like a state of fight or flight, for example. Or when something doesn't go your way, you don't go into a state of fight or flight. Or when you are running on 0 hours of sleep, you don't go into a state of like frustration and anger at yourself and beating yourself up and impatience and all of that, because what you've done is you've trained your body to not do that. But I'm training my body to not do that before I'm a mother. Well, I guess I'm already a mother, but before the baby's actually here, so that it makes it easier when I'm actually in the thick of it. You can't, like, it is 10 times harder to be training your nervous system to be like welcoming this sensation during birth if you haven't practiced that shit ahead of time. I'm telling you. And that's why with my nervous system expansion, for example, when I'm giving it to clients, they're not just doing it in the heat of the moment. They're practicing it elsewhere so it becomes this muscle memory and this like anchor. So when they're in the heat of the moment, it becomes actually easier to use. The next thing that I've been doing that has been really preparing me has been visualizing, meditating, journaling, Pinterest boarding, all the things on my version of motherhood. I've talked about this before, and I'm sure I'll have a shitload more to say, once I'm back. And I'm like embodied actually in full motherhood, because, I'm really big on integrity. And I feel like even the Her Year girls were like, oh, can we do a pop-up? Because I was doing a pop-up, little mini mastermind inside of Her Year for business women and for entrepreneurs. And some of them were like, can we do a pop-up mini mastermind on motherhood stuff? And I was like, yes, but we need to do it once I've actually gone into that phase of life, just out of integrity, because I'm like, the embodiment level is completely different, and the experience and the empathy and the understanding and all of that is just obviously completely different. But I have been really making sure that I am setting my mind up, and I've been doing this pre-pregnancy as well, because a lot of women, this can also energetically block you from conceiving, is having a negative mindset around motherhood, of thinking all these negative things around motherhood, of thinking of all these things that you're going to lose in motherhood. So if you have been trying to conceive and really struggling, go and listen to that episode. I can't remember the number of the episode. We'll put it down below, but it's like the energetic reasons for endo, infertility, PCOS, etc. Go and listen to that one if you need to, because the energetic things play a very, very big role in easy conception. And I also believe in an easy pregnancy. I mean, maybe let's wait to see what the next pregnancy holds for me. But I really do believe that from seeing myself, but also all my clients that I've helped to get pregnant, and then they've gone through that pregnancy journey and just kind of noticing the difference. But anyway, what I was going to say is that, if you're going into a new season of life with a ton of fear and negative programming and worry about all the things that you're going to lose, what do you think, ladies and gentlemen, your reticular activating system is going to see? Obviously the negative. So I have done a lot of work, as, I don't want to say as Hal, because he doesn't do this kind of stuff at all, but his version of like, the work has been us talking, having a conversation. But, I'm very big on, I've talked about this book before, Bringing Out Bebe. I don't agree with all of it, but I agree with a lot of it. And I've been reading other books, but you don't even need to read a bunch of books. It's just, I think, branch out from your bubble. Go read about how another culture brings up children, how another culture views motherhood, so that you realize that what you see in your friendship group, if that's not what you want, that's not the only version of motherhood out there. You can create a different version of motherhood. But instead of being in the thick of it and drowning on a bad day and trying to create it and not seeing a way out, can you go into it with a vision? Can you go into it with a different version to maybe like a friend or a relative? And that's obviously going to help determine what you get out of it and how you see the journey as well. I will say, ladies, also for anyone else that is pregnant or that wants to fall pregnant, I am going to update the blog post that I did of like must have pregnancy things. There's some books on there and stuff because I've read a few more. It might not be updated by the time this podcast episode goes out, but just keep an eye out on my Instagram stories and whatnot. Because even though I won't be doing podcasts and I don't think I'm going to be on Instagram stories and whatnot as much. I'm not planning to anyway during my maternity leave. I mean, who knows? Because I also love my Instagram stories and love sharing things with you. I will no doubt be throwing up, blog post updates. I'll be putting out emails of updates and that kind of stuff. And I'll be sharing what I can. So make sure that you're staying clued in with my Instagram stories and my emails, just so you don't miss out on those recommendations or nuggets or whatnot. Because I've read some books, but part of me is like, oh, I want to share them once I'm in it to actually be like, oh, this was really helpful for me personally, or this wasn't really helpful. Because I feel like sometimes you don't know whether a book is helpful when it comes to like birth and early stages of motherhood until you're actually in it. Oh, Jelly's coming to join. Hi, buddy. All right. And then my last thing that I want to share with you guys that has been really helpful in preparing mind, body, and soul with all of the journey that we're about to go on is acknowledging my fears and what I feel vulnerable about and sharing that with Hal. I'm not ignoring those little fears in the back of my mind. I'm not ignoring the things that my heart feels vulnerable about. Am I giving them a ton of attention? Am I making them my whole reality? Am I playing victim to them? Absolutely not. But I am acknowledging them because, and Ina May talks about this in her book, because not acknowledging those fears can then actually cause them to be blocking you during birth, but also it could cause you to be blocking, your experience or whatever is happening in postpartum. It could physically manifest as something in postpartum. And so when I've had these fears, and I was saying to Hal, I was actually sharing one with Hal last night, and I was just saying to him, babe, I just want to say that, like, even though I'm obviously so like excited for birth and I'm not scared about it and I'm not scared about postpartum or motherhood or anything like that, I want you to know, and sometimes I might need to, you might need to just remind me that you've already told me this, but like, just say it again, 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 even if I asked you like 300 times. But I was just sharing with him that like there is a part of me that is a little bit nervous around postpartum and birth, because I can do all the prep, I can do all the planning, I can have all the intention, but at the end of the day, I'm not the one like in control. Like I don't know what is actually going to happen. And I feel good knowing that we have done everything that feels super aligned and our birth plan is super aligned and how we're doing everything and all of that. But of course, we also just don't know. Shit happens, right? Like truly shit happens sometimes. And so I was sharing that with him and some other things and whatnot. And it just allows you as a woman, especially like you're carrying obviously so much physically, but also mentally, energetically, like so much, it feels like sometimes so much of this is on you, right? You're feeding the baby, you're going through it, your body's changing, you're, not the one not able to breathe, you're the one not able to sleep. You're the one that has the giant belly and the giant boobs. You're the one that obviously is going through birth, and you're the one that is having the massive hormonal drop. You're the one that you're the only one that can feed the baby if you're doing, breast milk. You're the only one that can feed the baby if you're breastfeeding postpartum. So it kind of can feel like everything is on you. And so it's really important to share, in my opinion anyway, and in my experience, I think it's so important to share that emotional load and the mental load. Women these days, they're constantly, kind of complaining a little bit of like the mental load, the mental load, the mental load, the mental load. Yeah, women have a big mental load. Men do, just in a very different way. Men have a big mental load too, but more so I think, and I've done reels on this before, and a lot of you have been like, damn, when I actually did what you said in this reel, like things really fucking changed. I did this reel and I basically was saying, if you want to eliminate some of your burnout and mental load, ask for help. Literally, like, take one of those tabs and give it to your husband, give it to somebody else. Like, ask for help. Stop being the friend that's always booking the dinners. Ask one of your other friends to book the dinner instead of just piling things on all the time. And so when we think about it with pregnancy, it's like, this isn't just my experience. This isn't just my child's. This isn't just my mental load or emotional load or my birth portal. It's also his. And so I'm kind of getting emotional thinking about it. It's like, so I have every right, but also responsibility, because he's not a mind reader and he's a man. So we definitely not a mind reader. I have every responsibility to share what I'm feeling and what I'm going through with him, because he can help hold that. And I'm very big, I've kind of written that down on my birth things as well for him. I'm very big on that with birth too, of, you know, he's very intuitive. So I trust that he can kind of like read the room when I need it. But if I need, it's like everyone needs to leave besides him. And I need to just share my fears, my feelings, what my ego is saying. And I don't even mean half of it half the time. And he knows that. He's been able to figure out just getting it off my brain, then gets it out of my body. So I hope that was helpful for you guys in all the different ways. But that is kind of a little bit of what I've done to prepare my mind, body, soul for this new journey that we are going on. I just want you to also know that business will be running pretty much as usual. I will be MIA for about 3 months. I'll be on Instagram stories. I've planned a lot of content out and everything. So you guys will still be getting everything. I hope that it will feel like I'm gone, that we will miss me a little bit. But also I hope that it won't feel too much like I'm gone, because the team is still very much there. Olivia is there. Hal is there. My clients are being looked after and all that kind of stuff. I will still be posting things on Instagram. There'll still be emails going out. It's just going to be a little bit less, but it's also a beautiful time for you guys to dig deeper into free content, to past podcasts, to programs that you've bought that you haven't finished, and actually use this beautiful summertime whilst I'm going through this season change to also take yourself through your own season change, your own growth, your own quantum leap, your own evolution from all the different resources that I provide. We have one more episode where I'm going to share with you guys the breakdown of my maternity leave, and then I will be gone on the podcast for about 3 months, and then I'll be back and we'll be fresh and we'll be new, and it's going to be an amazing episode back. Like, I'm assuming the first episode will be just like an update on maternity leave.